Welcome back to the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real-world insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. You can find that book on Amazon. Just start typing in Exit Teams, and it should be the first hit. And don't forget to check out our expanding content at exitteams.com. Whether you're years away from selling or thinking about an exit now, this episode, I assure you, will be packed with must-know tips to help you avoid costly mistakes. So let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by an expert in the world of helping people connect more and better with others in business, my good friend, Michael Goldberg. Michael is a networking expert specializing in helping financial advisors, attorneys, M&A advisors, and other sales professionals grow their businesses. His clients include, get ready for this list, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, John Hancock, Northern Trust, Griffin Capital, SAP, Brother International, Rabobank, Guardian Life, Jackson National, State Farm Insurance, and Chubb. Michael is also a two-time TEDx speaker, a certified speaking professional, and an award-winning adjunct professor at Rutgers University. Michael, welcome to the show. This should be a great one because, seriously, who doesn't want to learn how to connect better with others in a networking and sales context? This is one of those universal topics that literally anyone can relate to.
Of course, yes. And so you were kind of rattling off that list of clients. That was just today. I've been doing this a long time. So in fairness, I've been doing this for over 25 years. It's been a long time.
As people listen to this over the years, you'll be adding names that I'm familiar with, but we just can't say quite yet. So folks pay attention. Michael is, I would say, on the rise, but man, you've had a meteoric trajectory over those 25 years.
As you know, I'm leaning into law firms now. So most of my work has been in the financial services space, some of the large life insurance companies, asset management firms, the Morgan Stanleys, the Merrill Lynches, and at some point it'll be the Morgan and Morgans, right? So that's kind of the direction, that I'm going in. And the reason for it, other than, of course, it's good business reasons, right? A lot of people don't like working with attorneys, but I do. Figure at some point I'm going to have to keep one on retainer, but that's a whole other story for a whole other podcast.
That's right.
But over the years, even in my financial services travels and being in front of those audiences, I'm always asked by attorneys in the different networking groups I'm either part of or that I lead. They ask me the same questions that advisors do. And it's only taken me, 10 years to realize that, maybe I should really lean into law firms because, they don't teach this stuff in law school. Like, you don't need to know how to build business, make connections, generate referrals, know how to work a room at a networking event or a cocktail party or a golf outing or a trade show or something to pass the bar. Like, it's to me, it should be required. Like, you imagine if it was required, right? It would just be, imagine if it was required in elementary school, and high school, let alone, when you're looking to pass the bar and you're going to law school. Like, my gosh, like, you could be the best lawyer in the world, but if you don't know how to connect with people, what are we talking about?
Yep. Think of how much further people would be along their professions had they had that training.
Yeah, no, not to mention the confidence, right? Just the confidence of being able to, walk into a room and be an attorney, be a financial advisor, be an M&A advisor, be whoever, whatever you are, just knowing that you can work that room. And I don't mean that you need to be that guy or gal that's shaking the hands and kissing the babies, but I mean just confident just to be able to talk to people and ask great questions and listen and connect. And a lot of that falls short.
This leads perfectly into my first question for you because many business owners and salespeople and attorneys, they often treat networking like schmoozing or socializing, so that's kind of a common misconception out there. So what's the real strategic value of networking when it comes to growing a business predictably?
Yeah, so you schmooze, you lose. But I do think that there is a fair amount of schmoozing, and I know it sounds very ethnic. I know, like my mom would be proud. But there is got to be some schmooze, right? So kind of slang, social, right? I think there's got to be some sort of most people. I'm not one of them, but most people look at this as work. Like I'm going to a cocktail party, I'm going to an event, and I have to network. Like the word work is in network. But imagine shifting that paradigm and it's net play, net fun, net socialize, net talk about March Madness. We just finished that. I know for those that will be watching, listening, we just finished that. If that's your thing, or your kid graduating college or landing an internship and whatever positive things that are going on in our lives that have nothing to do with work, all of that stuff is open game. Like that's the fun stuff. So
Mm.
go into events leading with that and saying, "Hey, Bob, my name is Michael. Nice to meet you. Can I just share a quick story? My daughter just made D1 level co-ed cheer at USF. She's a freshman. I'm so proud. Uh, you know, I'm sure that you're proud of your kids too. Like, what are some of the accolades, recent accolades? I'd love to hear. So and all of a sudden you're having this conversation, and I would have this with like my best of friends or neighbors or whatever. So if that shift in paradigm, if you want to call it a schmooze, you can. But to me, it's just socializing. The business stuff will come. I'll sometimes say if we're talking about March Madness too long, it's like, should we talk about some business? And if we do, great. And if not, I kind of don't care because it'll happen anyway.
I was just going to say, notably absent from what you just said, how you just put it was, I'm Michael. What do you do for a living? And that's
Yeah,
the standard template that too many people try to follow when they enter a room.
yeah, yeah. But look, I'm not saying you have to have a story ready, but
Yeah,
and I use boxing as a metaphor. So
right.
Knockout Network is my company. I've done some competitive boxing. Like I'm really serious about it. I follow it, and you're never going to be successful, even as an amateur, if you're not working on the connections, right? So the more and better connections in the round is going to win the round, possibly win the fight, and maybe prevent you from getting hurt too badly. It's the same thing with networking. Just focus on the connection. It's life is a series of 3-minute rounds, and stories happen around us all the time. It's just up to us to be observant, interested, and passionate enough to see it. So, those are the stories that I often bring into when I go to the next ACG meeting or an event, or even if I'm speaking. It's like I bring up things that are just recent, relevant, might have just happened that I think are interesting, poignant, funny, or different. And I just don't spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's, this just happened on the way here, I might say, and ba ba ba. And I'll say, has that ever happened to you? And right there, boom, like you've got a connection, but it's got to be collaborative. It's got to be back and forth. And it shouldn't be planned. It shouldn't be, I'm going to talk about these 4 stories. Or it should just be what's going on in your life that's positive, that's interesting, that's different, that you want to talk a little bit about. But the key is you can't go on and on and on about it. You got to say it, apply it to the conversation, or just say, "Isn't that funny? Has it ever happened to you?"
If
Or
I've
what's
heard,
happened to you in your life that's funny, right? So it's got to be this whole collaboration.
I've heard, the numbers have varied each time I hear it. Hey, you've got 15 seconds, you've got 20 seconds, you got 30 seconds to connect with someone, and you're really it's what you're doing with this approach is kind of like a pattern interrupt, where
Yeah,
people are expecting the same template, the same rote template of what do you do for a living? It's so, vanilla, but
yeah.
you come
And
at
here's
it.
the other thing, and you're right. Is I also I try to do this. I don't always succeed, but I try to do this in a manner where I'm making it easy to speak with me. Like I want to make it easier for you. I want to make it easier for the person that doesn't know this stuff, that isn't comfortable, that's a little confused, or that was dragged to the event or the whatever. And make it. I just want to be the easiest guy in the room to talk to. So yes, I'm very outgoing, but if I'm speaking to somebody that isn't, I'm gonna ratchet it down. Like I'm not looking to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I'm looking to be very approachable and the person that's easiest to talk with. That's what I'm looking to morph into. But by doing that, I want to be totally interested in what you've got going on. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be there.
It's making me think of the word what I want to say is this harder for introverts, but maybe in today's so highly tech enabled world, people are into their devices, they're into their whatever,
Yeah.
electronic experience they're trying to have you found over the years that you're having to reteach people how to start off conversations? People who might have been good at it, in years past, might have lost lost the ability, lost to literally connect with people.
Yeah, well, I mean, to an extent, I think there's a misnomer. The misnomer, in my experience of only doing this for over 25 years, is that introverts are bad networkers, or it's hard to connect with an introvert. That's not necessarily true. That's just putting somebody in a bucket. I think introverts tend to be really good networkers in that they're the ones that are going to take the business card. They're the ones that are going to look at networking as a process. So there's like an expression in boxing, like the art and science of boxing. The art is just the beauty and the movement, but there's science is that there's real thought and strategy that goes behind it. I would say that extroverts tend to be a little bit stronger, or they appear to be, with the art of networking. I do believe introverts tend to be stronger at the science of networking. And they're both important. Like if you're fluttering around the room and you're really great at shaking the hands, kissing the babies, and socializing and the shtick and all that, right? Schmooze. But there is no follow up and follow through, and nothing comes out of it, then nothing comes out of it. I find that introverts, those that tend to be more introspective, are way better at creating follow up, follow through, and then a continuation. And if you're not good at that, then it's almost a waste. It was just a fun event, right? I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's a fun event,
Yeah.
But it's now a question of what you're going to do to sort of monetize it, leverage it, start to develop relationships, from a genuine, really coming from a genuine place.
Yep. What about for business owners or other people in sales that they just feel completely networked out? I mean, I we could all probably pack 10, 15, 20 different events per week into our calendars, and some of us may even try to attend a great deal of those. So if you're out there, you're just pounding it, you're feeling like I'm a little bit burnt out on this. What's the difference between having what I've heard you call busy interactions versus value producing networking?
Right, right. So I think COVID helped shift the mindset and the paradigm around this. Is you don't have to go to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, you don't have to go to a networking event to be a networker, to even be a great networker. Like you don't have to leave your office. You can still be a great networker. There's LinkedIn, 1.3 billion people on LinkedIn. 5 people become a LinkedIn member, I think every 5 seconds or 3 seconds, some weird stat like that, right? So think of all those people that are there. You never have to leave your office, really. Everything's online now, right? And I don't even mean just virtual meetings. Like there's virtual networking groups. I lead one, where I've got virtual groups all over the place, all over the country. So you can do that. But even if you don't go to networking events, just on LinkedIn and connecting in your meetings, you can still be a very savvy networker. But people that just like to network like to go to events because you're making more newer connections. But if and I know people, and this may not come across the way I'm meaning it to come across, but I know people that are disabled, that are in wheelchairs, and it's really difficult for them to get around. And so they have to really rely on their own devices of click, and just kind of working it from their office. And they're as good as anybody. They just don't have to get into their car and get to the place and pay the fee and put the business card in the bowl, and all that's fun for many. It's not fun for everybody. So you don't have to leave, and you can still be just as effective. And if you're really, again, science rather than art, maybe even more effective.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I talk often, and I always learn stuff from you. You always help me reframe things
Well,
in my
thanks.
mind.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. And
Under
what
the
works for some, Bob, and I know we've had this, conversation offline. What works for some doesn't work for everybody. You got to find what works for you, or I have to find what works for me. It's not a one size fits all. In boxing, I always bring it back. Styles make fights.
uh,
There are some fighters that are looked at being some of the greatest fighters in the world, and not that they were the greatest, but their styles were so unusual or unmatched, but befitting for them, that they were a success because of it. It's the same thing when it comes to connecting with people, when it comes to generating referrals, when it comes to an approach on networking. I mean, I could rattle off 10 different approaches off the top of my head, and not one is anywhere close to being the same as any of the others, right? Styles make fights.
Speaking of people who need, consistent referrals, what key habits have you noticed that separate those who generate ongoing referrals from those who don't? I mean, they have a hard time keeping
Yeah,
those
yeah.
consistent referrals going.
I think so. I'm going to answer it like this: is that I think most people only, and even really good networkers, only focus on 25% of the networking equation, or as I
Hmm.
call it, the four phases of networking. Like they focus on working the room, going to the event, exchanging the card or the QR code or whatever the kids are doing these days, that aspect. But the other three factors are often forgotten. And I think that the people that do the best job at monetizing, developing the right relationships, long term, and really building, a sphere of influence around them are focused on the other three components, which are preparation, right? Are you preparing the right way for the event? What you're going to say, how you're going to say it, who you're going to connect with, how are you going to set all those different things up? I've got lots of best practices around it. Then there's presentation. That's the work the room. That's what most people think of as networking, is really that
Right.
component. But then there's the follow up or the FU, the follow up, or the follow through, the FT, the G rated version, or the follow through, where a lot of people won't follow through unless, hey, I'm looking to sell my business, right? Of course, you're going to follow up on that. But if it's just we're looking to help each other and it doesn't seem as evident, and then there isn't always that follow up. Not to say you have to follow up with everybody, but that's a whole other conversation. But there's got to be some sort of next step with many of the, not all, but many of the people that we connect with. And then there's the staying in touch strategy. That's the number one thing that I think we drop the ball with, is that we're always looking for the next new connection, for the
Yeah.
next new introduction, for the next new scenario, for the next new association, rather than going into your phone or going onto LinkedIn and looking at the thousands of people that we've already connected with, and being better at maybe not staying in touch with thousands, but staying in touch with the right people. Like, who within all of that are the biggest influencers that we have the best connections with, that we should develop, relationships and systems and models to be able to leverage that. That number one missed opportunity, is myself included, is we just don't do a good enough job staying in touch with the right people in the right way.
So I've taken inspiration from you. You've been working with me for a few months, and you have this concept called foxholes, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really latching onto that. Yeah, I've got, I don't know, 3,000 LinkedIn connections. Some people have more. A lot of people have a lot less. But I'm starting to think deeper and more one on one with people within that 3,000 something. The foxhole
Yeah.
concept. Could you share with our audience what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a dogfight out there, man. It's a fight. So a metaphor, military in the foxhole. You're there with two or three or four people that presumably, we're in this together. We take a bullet for one another. I'd carry you across the enemy lines, and think in terms of that. So now business foxhole. So who are your favorite three or four people that have a similar but different profession to what you might have? Is equally, this is bad, equally needy, or the same phase of their business as you are. Like, if somebody's there that's semi-retired, they're not going to be the right one. If there's somebody
Sure.
that's just new and I'm just figuring it out, they're not going to be the right one. So it's got to be somebody that's kind of where we are, or maybe a click ahead is good.
Yep.
And that focus on the same marketplace, the same target market, the same industry, profession, market segment, niche, dynamic demographic, geography, and don't compete, and have similar values and styles and approaches. Think of what would happen if you had three or four of those people. I mean, there's no set number, but keep the number small, because there's like intimacy there. And imagine what happens if you get together with these folks, let's say every other week, for 30 minutes, like on Zoom, like for free. Like, you don't have to leave your house. You can do this for free for 30 minutes, and with a very focused and nimble agenda. What do you have? How have the last 2 weeks been? What are you focused on? Who are you looking to meet? And how can I help you with a plus one? Like, how can I help you walk out of this meeting with an introduction to somebody that is relevant?
Yep.
Matt, right? Imagine you do that every other week. Is that the best meeting like in the world? Because you're going to start to actually generate referrals. I don't mean just introductions, but all of a sudden, every 2 weeks is going to garner. I know of this company that's got an EBITDA, and I think that manufacturing, and those opportunities are going to start to fall one another's way because of the law of frequency, right? And
Mm.
that's what the foxhole is just creating this model It costs nothing if you don't want it to cost anything, but it's just a question of leveraging the law of relationship and frequency.
Yep. Now this is
One of my favorite approaches, and so and it's funny. So we spoke earlier that I'm leaning into law firms right now. So I've got a foxhole that's been together for 4 years in the insurance and financial services industry. One of my favorite meetings. We do it once a month now, but it's very fruitful. And I'm in the process, literally, here it is, of developing a foxhole of folks that are focused on the same big law firms that I am, but don't compete with me. Like they all do something different. So I've got like an attorney who coaches attorneys. I've got somebody that recruits, gets retained by law firms that recruits attorneys. I've got somebody that's a court reporter. He's got a court reporter agency, and on and on. I mean, don't you think that opportunities are going to come up for all of us?
Yep.
Right? It's just going to happen. It's going to happen pretty quickly. And these are people I'm already developing relationships with. And again, this is not like earth-shattering rocket science. This is taking your favorite people on an index card, creating a system, and working that system. And if everybody's on board with a high level of commitment, law of relationship, law of frequency, law of focus, how does business
focus.
not come from that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm my foxhole is not fully built out, but I'm getting there. I'm getting
Yeah.
there. Switching gears back to networking groups or different communities that business owners, sales professionals, attorneys, financial advisors, that they could align with their business goals. How do people find those? What kind of guidance can you give folks who look at the landscape of what's out there and say, I need to spend my precious, valuable time in these areas?
Yeah. So how do they find their business goals, or how do they find their networking groups?
Their networking groups.
Okay. I think it depends. It depends on really, and you said it, like what your goals are, what you're looking to do. I think the best networking groups out there, other than mine, of course, are the ones that are most in sync with your target marketplace and or most in sync with those that are serving your target marketplace.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just going to keep myself as kind of an example, and I'm sorry, but I'm kind of new at this too because I'm now moving into a whole other target market space. So it's really fun as I'm working with clients because I'm kind of doing it too. So even though I've been at this for 25 plus years, it's like deja vu all over again for me. It's like a blank canvas. So it's really fun. So if like for me, I'm focused on big law firms. So I've stumbled upon, because somebody referred me in, to an association that is focused on business development officers and marketing directors for big law firms. Like there's an association for that.
Isn't that
I'm
something?
insane if I don't join that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of doing that. I'm already collaborating with the members. I'm based in Gulf Coast, Florida, so this is a Tampa-based group. I'm going to become a member like this month. Like why wouldn't I do that? Like it's fun, number one, but number two, nobody does what I do, and these are all people that can potentially hire me. Right? And that's
Yeah.
something I would absolutely go to and participate in. Like, why wouldn't I? So there's an association for everything. I think professional associations are or the Super Bowl of March Madness of working on the right. But they're like the pinnacle, right? They're the top, I think, of the types of networking groups that you can become part of because they're so specialized. Like every industry, profession, market segment, niche has a professional association, whether it's M&A, whether it's private equity, whether it's financial services. You're a chat GPT away from just finding that. And a lot of times you can just go and check it out. You don't have to even join them. But if you're serious, you want to join it, you want to become part of the board, you want to be as active as you can be, because, the more you put in, you're going to get out, like with anything,
You
So
know,
I'd say professional associations is where you start.
yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking, what you're really building here is an extension of yourself. It's almost like you're building a marketing department. I would say unpaid, but you're there to help them advance their business, whatever it is they do as well.
Yeah.
And you're trying to link up with people who are having uh, conversations with the same people you want to talk to, just about different things.
Right, right. So funny story. And this just happened like a month ago. Is I know you're based in Atlanta, so I was driving back from Atlanta, and I was heading home to my home, which is just outside of Sarasota. And I was going to this association meeting that I described for legal marketing. So they were having a social in Tampa. So I had registered for it, and so I went, and I hadn't joined yet, but I wanted to go and meet them. They knew I was coming, so I stopped in, and it's all women. Like it's 30 women that represent 30 different law firms. My first thought was, these are my people.
Yeah.
That's it. All women. I said this, and they're all huggy, and we got to
Yep.
bring them to my firm, and so I just thought, man, this is the fun stuff, right? So if the writing's not on the wall with that, I don't know what is. But I was able to ask my questions and kind of vet them and figure out this is the right group. It looks like it is. Of course, there's a national component because that's the good thing about associations. If there's a regional component, there's often a state. If there's a state, there's often there's often a national. So
Yeah.
already I'm thinking I got to look to see if I could speak at the national event next year and da da da. So now that becomes my questions as I'm kind of vetting and gathering information. So but there's an association for everything. There just
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you just got to work it. Just got to find the right place, say the right thing, meet the right people. But those associations is like I think the top.
I've heard you too mention joining groups on LinkedIn. Certain groups. I mean, there you go. That's people that have formed around one purpose, started by one or
Yeah,
two
well, like,
people
here's
or
the thing
more.
about groups is, and again, I'm not a LinkedIn expert by any stretch. I'm on it. I'm fairly active on it for sure. I post, the whole thing. I think I know more than most. But one thing about groups, I know that they're not a thing anymore. They used to be
Mm.
on LinkedIn, but the thing I like about them is there's lots of them and they're very segregated. And by that, I mean they're very oriented towards legal marketing or M&A or private equity or manufacturing or tech or textiles, whatever your thing is. So I like the fact that it's so organized that way. So it's still you've got a grouping of people that have common ground. So I just look at it as an opportunity to be it's like a mini LinkedIn. It's like a mini, okay, everybody here is
Yep.
doing the thing. So it's a good opportunity to connect and create some common ground. That's what I think groups are. It used to be something else, but it's not what it used to be anymore. But I think that's just a place to, again, it's just another pond to fish in.
Yep. Yep. Let's talk a bit about your coaching, the work that you do for individuals and teams. So I got to imagine there are huge mind shifts that leaders have to make that are needed to make networking effective. What does that look like in your world?
Well, I think for one thing, you have to have as a leader, you have to have an abundance mindset. Is not everybody is a prospect, not everybody is a potential client. I think as a leader, you have to be, if you embrace coaching, you yourself be coachable.
Mm.
And by being coachable, I mean being open to new ideas, being open to trying new things, to taking a chance, to being a bit less risk averse, to, of course, being open, honest, and a bit vulnerable. So I think those are all criteria for a coaching environment, whether you're a leader helping to create one or whether you yourself are looking for a coach. And I don't do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I mean, this sounds bad, I know, but I'm kind of picky about it.
Sure.
Like if somebody's read my book and they want to work on their peace statement, right, which is my variation of the elevator speech, or they want to work on something really specific where, yeah, that's it, where you're the one, where it's something very specific and proprietary to my stuff, and they're really open to, I want to learn this and I want to implement it, then that's a good candidate. If it's somebody that's looking to, they're not really sure, I'm not sure on the one. I'm very hyper focused. And for that reason, I work with a lot of groups. I do a lot of group coaching in a program that I call Fight Club.
Yep.
So fight, like we don't talk about Fight Club, so anything that kind of happens there stays there. But that's all accountability. That's all calendar management. That's, owning your time, calendar blocking, owning your calendar, and then doing the work. Like on Tuesday, I'm doing this, on Thursday, I'm doing this, and being really choreographed in how you're operating. So that's really what Fight Club is all about. So if you're coming from a mindset where that's attractive, then the Fight Club approach is probably a good fit.
Sure. How should people measure? I'm thinking about the time. Time is probably our most precious resource. How many times have we heard that? The time that people spend trying to network, trying to connect with others. So how should they be measuring the ROI on the time that they're spending networking and having all these conversations that they're hoping to be that'll be fruitful?
Well, number one, how much do you like it? That's one thing. And
Yeah,
again, it's not for everybody. Not, there's lots of ways of marketing and and prospecting. So people that are just natural at it tend to spend more time than they should because it's fun. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If you're having a good time, that's okay. But provided that you're able to build your business the way that you want to, it's probably okay. But I would just say less is probably more. So one thing that I do,
interesting.
I mean, it's not so much less. I want to do it less, but do it better. So it's instead of being everywhere, just where are the places that you should be? Like
Back to
less is
the
more.
back to the targeting, back to the foxhole,
Right, right.
back to the be where your people
That's
are.
right. Yeah. So be very qualitative. If you're more qualitative, it puts you in a position to be more quantitative in
Watch
terms
the
of
ROI
networking.
ROI start to soar.
Yeah. So something that I do is that so I divide my 5 day work week, in theory, in half. So each of those days are in half. So now you've got 10 fragments, right? So 10 halves of a day. So an AM and a PM, an AM and a PM, and so on. So I've divided my 5 day work week into 10 fragments. That makes math really easy. So when I plan out my month, I look at each of those weeks and I know that there's certain halves of those days or fragments that are devoted to meetings. Like I'm going to meet with people, whether it's online or whatever, just in these days. So I devote maybe 30% of my week. That's 10, that's three fragments, right? So three
Yep.
tens. How much time do I want to devote to networking? So now I kind of plan, how many of these fragments are going to be devoted to networking. And then, of course, you got to do your work, right? You've got to respond to email. You've got to do all the things you got to do. So how many of those fragments are going to be devoted to that? So I divide my whole work world into tenths. And how many tenths do I want to devote to networking? So if I feel that too much of that, let's just say it's six of them, 60%. If I decide that I'm not getting a lot of the other stuff done and it's costing me, I may need to reduce it by a fragment. I might need to reduce it by 10% or 20%. So in that way, I'm kind of measuring it. And of course, when business comes in, I like to dictate, how that business came in. Where did it come from? Bob gave me a great referral into a bank, and and how do I know Bob? And so I'm able to measure it that way by all the clients that do come in. Where are they coming from? How am I getting them? And the cool thing about that is I'm able to look at what's working and what's fun, and then try to replicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
No,
that's
that
kind of how I do it. And the summer is different, because summer people are in a different groove. So my summer fragments look a bit different. And personal time can be part of those fragments. I know you like to hike. We all
yeah.
like to do different things, So during the summer and some other times, maybe 10% of my week, maybe it's a Friday afternoon, maybe it's a Friday that I devote to doing the fun thing. I'm near the kids or whatever it is, right? So it's not all work, right? It's having control. I call it owning your calendar. It's just the ability, like that's why we go into business on our own is to own our calendar. When you're working for somebody else, hard to do that, but by owning your calendar, there's real power in that.
I've heard too over the years, people, if they want to engage in some kind of meaningful, major change, hold some reward out there for yourself. Oh, I got through this.
Yeah,
And for doing so, I'm going to get to do, I'm going to have a bottle of wine.
right.
I'm going to, hike the AT. That'd be a bit of an extreme example. I'm going to buy a car. That'd be even more extreme example. But
Yeah.
yeah, that risk,
Lawrence, I'm going to work really hard this week because, I'm going to take Friday afternoons off in the summer because I want to spend it with my kiddo, right? Because she's home
yeah,
from school and, that sort of thing, So, you got to play mind games sometimes, earn it, right?
we really like stories and lessons here on the show. Great examples of what went wrong, what went well. So, do you have anything where a strategic networking decision changed the trajectory of a business owner or a leader?
Strategic networking decision that changed the trajectory of a business owner. Um, all I can really think of is when there's somebody at an event and they don't really want to be there. And they're in the corner and they're on their phone and nobody's talking to them. And I see this at my own events, and we don't allow it. Like our members are kind of trained and conditioned to, no man sits alone, no woman sits alone. But to me, I
I've
kind
been
of feel,
I've
right?
been to several of yours as well, and you guys do a real good job at that.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to be alone, unless they really want, if they want to be alone, they wouldn't be there, right? So, I mean,
Yep.
nobody goes to an event and really wants to be by themselves. Like, I'm just here collecting my thoughts and reflecting on life, and I thought this would be the place to do it. No, right? So,
Yeah.
I think that I'm really changing the trajectory of what networking is and what this experience could be if I help people that don't see it, don't know this stuff, because most people don't. Um, and I make it easy and fun. So when there's somebody by themselves, I am going to ratchet it down and I am going to approach you and I'm going to ask, do you mind some company? Nobody's ever like shooed me away. It's never happened, not ever, and so my name is, and then I might open up with a quick story. I was at an event myself not too long ago when I was standing by myself and I'll come up with something, right? But I want to connect with this person because I want this to be a great experience for them. And then when they open their eyes up to, if I'm easy to speak with, and I try to find out, why they're there, who they're looking to connect with, and what that's about, which I can do pretty easily. And I make that happen for them. Like I've helped them. Maybe I've changed their view of the world, at least at that moment, right? And that happens. I've had people come over to my events later and thank me, or weeks later and say, what you did, I don't know if you know this, but this is what happened as a result. Man, that just makes my day. My favorite is my students. So I'm a
Oh
professor at
yeah.
Rutgers, as you mentioned. I've got 50 students, so I teach two different levels of public speaking, 25 students per class. In the fall, it'll be three classes. Why I'm doing this, I don't know, um, but it's public speaking, right? And it's college level. It's mostly juniors and seniors, and I teach my networking ideas in the class because my students have to know how to talk to people. Now they're my kids' age, and they have not been taught how to talk to people. Many of them, like if I let them be on their phones the whole time, they'll be there. They're not allowed to be there on the class. But I teach my networking ideas. It's on the midterm, on the final. I help them with their resumes, and then I force them as the professor. You can do this to if this is the type of job you're looking for or internship you're looking to land. This is where I want you to go. This is what I want you to say, and this is with whom I want you to say it. They come back to the class, they give a presentation by design on their experience. And oh, by the way, they forget that they're terrified of public speaking because they're so caught up in it
Yeah.
worked. And I made this connection. I just landed an internship. Somebody just this week on Monday, they just landed an internship because of something that happened in my classroom. I like tears in my eyes in the back of the room when I hear it. That's forever stuff. That's changing somebody's life. Like they're gonna remember that stuff forever at 21 years old, 22 years old. And I have 15 weeks with them to help them own their
Yep.
calendars, own their stuff. I can't always do it with clients, but I can always do it if they want to, with students. But life changing.
Along those lines, I've been thinking this whole time we've been talking about these lists of what older folks, and I'm talking 80s, 90s, some of their advice for people who aren't there yet. And maybe it's the algorithms in all the social platforms that I visit are throwing these lists at me. But pretty consistent in all those lists is don't don't fear something like don't fear the outcome, fear not ever trying.
Yeah.
What a lot of what you've been saying here, and I've heard you, offline in meetings, is along those lines as well. It kind of goes with a mindset of push yourself out there and don't focus so much on what the bad outcome could be of putting it out there.
Well, that's Wayne Gretzky stuff, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really a page out of his book, but like if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no,
always
right?
know.
It's like really what's the worst case scenario? This came up in a meeting that I had earlier with a group. Is somebody said, I'm afraid to reach out to these people because I don't know them well, and they don't do what I do, but there's a common denominator here, and I said, well, as long as you're outreaching in the right way, with the right reasons in mind, and it's a win-win, and you're using a lot of we language, like reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. that you may or may not have an actual connection, like a LinkedIn connection with. But
Yeah.
if you both serve manufacturing and you do different things, and you're on their profile and you see that there's some common denominator that you can look at, and it could just be that we both serve manufacturing. What's the downside of reaching out through a DM and saying, I see we both serve manufacturing. I would love to explore ways of how we can help one another. Are you game? Let's connect.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that'll happen? Nothing. Like nothing. That's the worst thing that'll happen. Nothing. Oh, so what? You know?
You know, you're literally no worse off than you were before you
Right.
asked the
That's it.
question.
And it costs you nothing. That could be potential copy paste stuff. But I'll bet you if you reached out that way to 10 people, I'd be willing to bet that you get at least 6 positive reactions. That's a 60% hit rate of just people that you now are connected to. That ain't
Yeah.
bad.
Good stuff. Michael, we've got this section called rapid fire takeaways. The audience seems to have really appreciated these.
Yeah.
All right. Biggest networking myth that most business owners and professionals who are in sales, financial advisors, attorneys, M&A people, biggest networking myth that all these people tend to believe.
Networking and sales is the same. They ain't. So
Yeah.
selling is I've got a product or a service. I'm going to convince you that you need it. Networking is making a connection so you can potentially get referred to people and have those conversations. So you want to put yourself in a situation where there's people that are looking to buy, or in your case, sell, right? But people looking to do business, right? So it's not about forcing people to do business. Now, I'm not saying sales is bad, but having somebody to buy is way better. So networking, a form of marketing, definitely interfaces with sales, both important, both networking if done at the right time in the right way, and for the right reasons. So, we're taught to sell life
Yeah.
insurance product, right? Sell it. Who's your natural market of your family? Go sell them, right? I mean, why is turnover so bad? Because nobody wants to do that and it doesn't work.
Yep.
But networking is relational. Sales tends to be more on the transactional side. Again, there's some overlap in gray area, but that's
Know
the
the
answer to your
difference.
rapid fire
Yep.
question.
All right. One metric that owners should start tracking to evaluate the strength of their network.
How quickly people respond to them. So if these are
Ah,
your 10 favorite people in the world, business wise, and they're not responsive to you, you should start to reevaluate your 10 favorite business
yeah.
people in the world.
Should
So
they
I think
really be in?
responsiveness, people that are really important to us, we tend to, through text or whatever it is, we tend to be responsive. I think that's the hallmark.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you really want somebody who's not responsive in your foxhole with you,
Yeah,
guarding
that's
your
it,
back and
right?
all that?
Yeah,
All
somebody
right.
that has your back, and that's going to be back and forth. And kind of an analogy of that is when we're not in touch with somebody for a long time, but like think of people like that you grew up with or you went to school with that had a relationship with. Like if you texted them right now, wouldn't they just come right back? Or if you called them, like Bob, like look at that uptick,
Yep.
because you had that whole connection and it's been a while. Like those folks. If you don't get that, it's time to find some new friends.
There you go. All right. One networking action that owners can take, that owners and advisors and salespeople can take this week that pays immediate dividends.
Put together a foxhole. I think
Okay.
it's so overlooked because it's looked at as this big strategy that's going to take me months and months. Shouldn't. This right here took me 2 weeks, and it was just because I was traveling. I could have pulled this together in a week.
Yeah. Well, Michael, as we round out third and come into home here, I've got one closing question for you. Let's say someone's listening and they're thinking about selling their company and they're expecting some kind of liquidity event or sale in the next few years. And frankly, it could be a financial advisor selling a book of
Yeah.
business. It could be an attorney selling their firm in whole or in part. What's the very first networking action they should take this quarter and why?
Be clear, decide on and be clear about your target market. Really be surgical about being able to describe the industry, profession, market segment, niche, dynamic, demographic, geography that you want to serve best and therefore wish to serve most. So I look at that as a boxer. The most important punch, it's not the knockout punch necessarily, but it's the jab in boxing. So with good boxers, at least 75% of the punches for a good boxer are going to be jabs. And jabs are designed to set up your power punches or set up your footing or set up your positioning in the ring, to set up the more important, the more foundational things. And target market is the jab in business, at least this type of business with professional services, because without a target market, it's hard to determine where to go, what to say with whom, and get your footing.
Yeah.
It just is. So I would say that's numero uno. If I was running a financial services firm, you couldn't work for my firm if you didn't own a target market or two. And it's got to be clear. It can't be, well, small businesses, because that means nothing.
Vague. Yeah.
Too vague, right? Reduce the fraction. What type of small business? What industry, profession, market segment, niche, dynamic, demographic, geography, company names? Be really surgical. Once you can pinpoint that and you start to talk to people, they'll say, wait a minute, you know who you need to talk to, right? And now you got a connection.
Yep.
Boom.
Michael, this has been awesome as always. I'm not just blowing smoke. I learned something each time. So we've talked about, schmoozing versus doing it more strategic. You've used some boxing metaphors. That's awesome. We've talked about the 4 stages of networking, the Foxhole concept. You're big on that. Boy, the list is endless. I am going to be listening to this one again. This has been fantastic. So, how can folks get a hold of you to hear more about the good work you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two main platforms. There's my speaking and training company, which is Knockout Networking, knockoutnetworking.com. Of course, you'll find me on social and LinkedIn and everywhere else. So that's my speaking and training, company. And an underbelly of that is, and about this, Bob, is I lead a national networking group called, wait for it, the Networking Group.
A networking group.
Or TNG, then, for the networking group. So you can go to the networkinggroup.org. And we've got communities in different parts of the country, and we're always looking for attorneys and financial advisors and M&A advisors and really professional services people that are serious about networking and open to a lot of the precepts that I've been describing, and they want to be a part of that. They're serious about growing their business and connecting. I love meeting those people, and that's the networkinggroup.org. Most of our meetings are virtual, except for the ones that aren't.
There you go. And for a visual, if you want a visual, here's Michael's book, Knockout Networking. You can find that on Amazon and I'm sure other places. This has been fantastic, Michael. Thank you. I'm very glad you were able to be on the show.
Yeah, no, what a thrill. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I do appreciate it.
Folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A huge thank you to my guest, Michael Goldberg, for sharing his expertise and his insights. So if you run a company of financial planning practice, law practice, M&A practice, and you need other people to help you do what you do, I suggest you reach out to Michael and see how he can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now is the time to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price, available on Amazon. Hey, don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources, tools, and a master class that can help you prepare for a successful exit. Until next time, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.